I know I told you guys that I wouldn't be making a Joker video because, I'm going to be playing the character. I really want to enjoy him and whatnot. But after playing him so much and after labbing him so much, I've decided that, hey, I actually want to show off just what awesome stuff this character can do. Because, yeah, he is really, really cool. I was super hyped for this character, and it turned out to be actually really good. I think he's at least high tier, maybe possibly top tier. Has a ton of damage, ton of combos, a pretty decent neutral, ton of good spacing, with all of his mobility and whatnot. And overall, a really fun character. So with that all in mind, let's get talking about Joker, talking about every single one of his moves, and how I personally feel like you should be using them. So I guess I should show you right here, yeah, Joker is a very quick character. He has a very high jump. He is pretty weighty, has a decent enough recovery, has very good rolls, so you can use all that, and one of the better air dodges in the game, so jumping to the ledge and air dodging is a really good idea. With that out of the way, let's talk about his moves, starting with forward air. Now, forward air is a really good move, and I also want to say right here that I will not be talking about the percents that all these moves do. You can see that yourself. I don't really feel like it's way too important. Instead, I want to talk about what these moves actually do. So, we're not actually starting with his arrows. We're starting with his grounded moves. I don't know why I said that. Starting off with his jab, overall, I feel like it's pretty good for a jab. Now, as I'm going to say in the future, Joker I feel like is a quite good rushdown type character that mainly focuses on kind of forcing people to approach him and then doing really, really well when they finally do approach him. And his jab is good for this because A, is pretty far range, and it is kind of disjointed, which is great for being a rushdown character. Lets him trade a lot with a lot of attacks. Because it is, a knife, and it comes out on frame 4 and does decent enough damage. Now, I won't be talking about how much damage every move does because I don't feel like that really matters. Instead, I want to talk about the use of the move, but it does do decent enough damage. Now, a nice thing about this jab that I'll try to do right here is that if you knock your opponent down, jab, jab, and then usually like jab, jab, down smash. So, pretty good amount of damage. Moving on to forward tilt, I honestly don't know exactly what this move is supposed to be used for. Now, it does decent damage, as you can see. It has decent range, and you can angle it up, down, and, regular. But I feel like the thing about it is that it doesn't really kill and it doesn't really combo way too much. And a lot of times you'd rather combo into like down tilt or up tilt because they do combo a lot more and do a lot of other stuff. So, it's kind of there. It does seem to deal decent shield poke and it can space okay. Not super safe on shield, but, it's kind of just good as a nice spacing poking tool. And it does actually send your opponent pretty far, even at low percents. So you can get them like kind of off the stage, try to edge guard them, which Joker is super good at. So I guess that's kind of the main thing to do with this. Overall, kind of one of his most underwhelming tilts. Not bad by any sense of the imagination, but not the best. On to up tilt, I actually think this move is probably one of the coolest looking moves in the entire game. Now, this move is as well really good. As you see, it is just a giant hitbox above you, super disjointed, super good anti-air, and actually has quite a few things that can potentially combo into it. So, that's great. And if you can't get any combos, well, it does pretty well itself. But the really nice thing about up tilt is that once you finally get it, it can actually lead to stuff like up air, you can drag down, get another up air, drag down. And a lot of the times these things aren't exactly true, but they can, as you see, do a lot of damage if your opponent messes up, or at least get, a decent amount of damage to begin with. Now, I think that's honestly probably one of the best things, up air, and then, I guess up tilt into drag down up air. You can, of course, as well, if you want to go like up tilt into something like forward air or back air. Usually up air, I feel like, is the best thing, as it just combos the best. But, if you want to get a back air to hit your opponent off stage, that is possible, I believe. And if you move a little bit, get up tilt into up B. And so that's pretty much an example. I did not time that correctly, but you can sometimes do that. I know that it is not true, but it looks super cool, and you can follow up from there. Overall, a great anti-air, great damage, great combos, and probably one of my favorite moves that he has, even though it is, kind of unsafe, and even though you can't really use it in neutral way too much. If you do hit it, you get a ton of results from it. Moving on to down tilt, I feel like it's very similar to up tilt in many ways, except for that it's a lot easier to use in neutral because, you're running around, you're sliding around, it's kind of hard to hit you as this character, you're pretty fast, you have a lot of ways to get to the ground, you have like 90% downward aerial acceleration when you hold down for your fast fall, but, you can run around, slide under attacks, low profile, a lot of stuff, and when you finally hit a down tilt, it's pretty good because it leads into up tilt, which leads into all these other things. So even though a lot of times it might be kind of hard to get up tilt by itself, there are things like forward air which you can kind of lead into it. There are things like down tilt which you can kind of lead into it, and that's great. And of course, down tilt itself, yeah, is great. It's a combo starter. It is very similar to Cloud, low profiles, tons of stuff. And, while it doesn't necessarily, like, kill or anything, it doesn't really need to. It kind of does all it needs to, just mainly being a combo starter. And while it isn't the best on shield, it's not, like, the worst, so you won't really get hard punished for it. As well, sometimes it doesn't combo, but even if it doesn't combo, it puts your opponent above you and puts them into the perfect situation to frame trap them, so either they have to air dodge and you can follow up, or they don't air dodge and you can hit them. As well, you can sometimes go like down tilt into up B, I think at around 30% or so, which is really jank. Again, maybe not the best, but I mean, look at that. And then you can follow up with whatever you want. That's really cool. Yeah, you know, it is questionable, but it looks cool. So very, very nice. And down tilt, that's kind of what that does. Finally, on to dash attack. I actually really like this dash attack. It comes out frame 6. I should also say down tilt comes out frame 8, up tilt comes out frame 8, and F tilt comes out frame 8. So they're all the same, which is kind of interesting, but actually feels really nice. But anyways, dash attack comes out frame 6, probably one of his best burst options. And you can just, you know, if you're holding shield, let go of it and press forward on your control stick and your C stick if you have that set to tilt, and you can do it instant dash attack, so that's pretty nice. But yeah, great burst option. It makes it that if you are in your shield, or if you're running around and your opponent happens to miss something, you can go forward and hit them. I think that I also like about this is that it moves so far, it does decent damage, and it hits your opponent super far off stage, or just, you know, really far in general, so it gives you a lot of stage control considering what you have to do. There's also some cool stuff about it, which is that you can go like forward air, if you get both the forward airs, actually, into dash attack. So that's pretty cool. That's kind of the only combo that I can really find out with it. But that is a really nice combo. And finally, if you space it well, which a lot of times is kind of hard to do because like when you're spacing a close range dash attack, but if you do somehow and get the last kick, it's actually really hard to punish. It is punishable, but it's really hard to punish because as you see, he kind of slides back a little bit. And he doesn't necessarily even slide back. I mean, he does a little bit, but mainly it's just like his foot comes back before you can really hit him. That's really nice. And mainly it's just a great whiff punishing tool. But yeah, another great thing to his arsenal, another great, really close range move. And all these together, all these tilts, I feel like give him a lot of potential combos, give him pretty good spacing on the ground, and while none of them are like free neutral tools, if you use them all together well, I feel like you can create openings for yourself, and you can create combos for yourself, but it will take a lot of movement in order to do that, which, you know, Joker does have decent amounts of, so it won't really be way too bad. Moving on to his aerials, almost all of them actually lead into his grab at like 0%, which is kind of cool. Joker overall is like a character that just has tons of weird stuff into grab, and his grabs do a lot of percent. So, you know, if you get an aerial, well, I guess sometimes it leads into hitting your opponent on the ground if it's like a back air. But if you get an aerial, you can lead into a grab and then, you know, do whatever after you happen to hit that grab. So that's really cool. So I just wanted to mention that because it applies to most of his aerials, and I didn't really want to talk about that multiple times. Now, moving on, his neutral air comes out frame 10, about frame 12, maybe 13. It's an okay move, and I feel like the thing about it is that, you know, it doesn't come out the fastest compared to a lot of his other aerials, and it doesn't auto cancel, so that kind of sucks. You can't really shield right after like you can with his other aerials. But if you do happen to hit it, you know, just right on your opponent's shield, it is pretty safe. It's one of his safest moves, and while it doesn't have the most range, it does have quite a bit of range. And as I was showing earlier, if you haven't hit it, you can actually combo right out of it. So it's kind of like a weird little mini Ike Nair in a way that combos into moves on the ground, which is, you know, good. It is really awkward to land. It is kind of a little bit slow, but it does hit behind you, and as well, it does actually go around twice. So that's really cool. I guess some final stuff I want to say about this is that it's one of his moves that is probably the best for a cross-up, because if you jump over your opponent and do a nair, it's really hard for them to deal with that, and then you can like turn around, jab, you can turn around, you know, shoot one of these boys if you want to, turn around, grab, whatever you really want to. That's really cool. And as well, I should say that if your opponent is off the stage, a lot of the times if they have, you know, not the best recovery, which probably won't work on length, but if they don't have the best recovery, you can just kind of nair right here, kind of like what a, what is it called, what a Bayonetta would do, so just like fall down, nair, and that'll hit a lot of characters, and just straight up edge guard a ton of characters, and you can actually go pretty low, that low, and still make it back with his recovery. So don't be way too afraid to edge guard. He's really great at edge guarding because of his nair and a lot of his other moves, but yeah, that's awesome, and it does combo. It does space. Kind of awkward to use, as I was saying, but a lot of good stuff about it. Forward air is another move that I really like. Now, I feel like this is kind of like a Me Gunner forward air, or kind of like, you know, Zero Suit Samus forward air, but one that actually works, one that actually combos consistently, and, you know, that combos into stuff like, you know, like dash attack at certain percents, that can get comboed into quite a bit of percents. And forward air, overall, yeah, just looks like a really cool approaching tool. Isn't that safe, but if you do space it correctly, even the second hit of forward air can be relatively safe. Now, that is cool in itself, the fact that he just has a cool approaching forward air option. You know, the opponent's kind of getting antsy, and it's also pretty good as an anti-approach tool. Like, if your opponent's jumping at you, trying to use the aerial, you can oftentimes hit them before they can hit you with this, which is pretty cool. But other than that, other than just, you know, jumping and doing that, it has a lot of other cool stuff it can do. For example, if you get forward air 1, whoa, that's pretty good. It actually puts your opponent into so much lag. It's really weird. You can actually get forward air into forward air. And forward air 1 leads into just a ton of other stuff. You know, forward air into itself is good enough, but you also have stuff like forward air, as I was showing earlier, into like up tilt if you can time, or if you can space it exactly correctly and have a lot of forward momentum. Kind of awkward, but there we go. Forward air into up tilt. You can stuff like forward air, I think, into side B. Yep, works pretty well, especially if you hit the Arsene side B that does a lot of damage. You can get forward air, I think, yeah, into like forward air, and of course into up tilt, and then into up air, so that's pretty cool. And I think you can get straight into up air, but you oftentimes won't do that. As well, you can get forward air 1 into bear. That's really nice, especially at low percents. And of course, you can get forward air into forward air 1. And if you're at certain percents, you can actually get forward air 1 into forward air 1 into forward smash, which is just like weird. I can't personally do it way too much, but I do know that it's possible. So you can do fair 1 forward smash. That's really good. Now that has all that capabilities, but as well, forward air can be hit. If I can do it right here, there we go. Okay, yeah, so fair 1 into up smash. I'm still kind of getting used to that, but yeah, just fair, run up a little bit into up smash, because if you just do it regularly, it will not hit. So that's a little weird, but yeah, it does definitely do that, and that's great. And of course, you can get like fair 1 into F smash, but I personally can't really do it, but it is possible to do. So that kills even earlier, and that is really, really good. As well, you can get forward air 1 into downer at ledge at lower percents. Now, downer actually doesn't spike without having Arsene, which I'll talk about later, but, you know, it does hit your opponent way off the stage, and if you have Arsene, of course, that will spike. So that's another really cool thing about it. Now, the thing I should say about forward air, it is not safe on shield, really. If you happen to hit it really close up, you will be grabbed, you will be punished. If you space it perfectly, it still does combo, which is kind of nice. Like, you can get all the way over here and still kind of get an attack right after that. And it is a little bit safer, so that's cool that you don't have to be way too close and you don't have to have way too much forward momentum. But yeah, it is quite unsafe, so please do keep that in mind. It's a great combo starter, one of his best kill confirms, but not very safe. So that is kind of yikes, but you know, you got to take those sometimes. As well, sometimes getting, for example, the second hit of fair as well, like drop down fair, can knock your opponent down, can put them in situations where you can combo them. As well, that isn't that safe, but it is quite a bit safer, so that's kind of cool. And yeah, both those can be spaced pretty well. Overall, I feel like that forward air just has so much potential. That's just kind of what I've been getting out of it so far. I feel like there's a lot of stuff you could potentially do with this. Like, you could do like forward air, up air. You could get a lot of weird strings going on. But that's kind of the basics of that move, so hopefully you got that down. Onto his back air. This is actually a move that I've heard quite a few people say they don't like too much, but I really like this move because, as you see, it comes out super fast, frame 7, and I should mention his forward air comes out on frame 7, and his neutral air frame 12, and of course his up air is like frame 6 or whatever. But anyways, yeah, frame 7, really quick forward air and really quick back air, exactly as fast as each other. That's pretty cool. But it does have a pretty long range. It does have a disjoint, unlike his forward air, so that means you can beat a lot of stuff, and it does kill decently early. Now, it doesn't kill that early, especially by itself, but it can edge guard and put the opponent into bad situations. It doesn't have the most range, so some people with really big hitboxes like Link, you know, can be kind of troublesome. But yeah, it can do all of that. Now, as I said earlier, you can get early percent like back air, hit your opponent on the ground, jab, like down smash stuff. So that's also really cool. But I think the most important thing to realize about this thing is that it's actually quite safe on shield. If you fully space it correctly, it just kind of doesn't let the opponent hit you. So try your very best to use this kind of like, I don't know, Lucina back air or Kron back air. Use it for edge guarding as well. But it is quite good on shield, and if you hit your opponent's shield, then you could maybe back up, run back in, go for a grab, maybe, you know, go for a back air, and then run away, go for another back air, run towards your opponent, turn around, you know, like run towards him, turn around, go for a back air. There's a lot of different options you can do, and while it isn't too long of a hitbox, and it isn't too strong, it's pretty good at what it needs to do, that being like a combo starter at low percents and a kill move at pretty decent percents at around 120-ish%. Downer is a move that I don't really think is that amazing. Now, don't get me wrong, I think it's pretty good because what it does is that it, you know, has this pretty good hitbox underneath you, and it always sends your opponent the way that you're facing, so that's pretty nice because you can, for example, like be over here and then happen to turn around and hit him with that, and then your opponent's going to be facing off the cliff. When you were in a bad situation, now they're in the bad situation. So yeah, that's pretty cool. You can like turn around, go for a downer, and beat a lot of moves like that. So that's nice. It does always send them in front of you. The problem about it is that it doesn't spike unless you have the upgraded version, like the Persona version, so the Arsene version, so that kind of sucks. And as well, it's a pretty decent combo extender, but I normally use like forward air, back air, or upper instead. I'm sure in the future we'll have a lot more combos off of this, but that's kind of what I'm feeling right now. As well, at very low percents, it can lead actually into a grab, and at higher percents, it can knock down for a tech chase. So those are two other things that you can do off of it. Like as you see right there, there's a grab, and maybe we can get a potential tech chase. I'll try a single time. But that's kind of the main things about it, and it does come out really slow. So yeah, there you go. Let's say they hit the ground. We get a tech chase. It is kind of slow, but it does have that pressure. Finally, we got up air, and this move is probably one of the worst ones just to use, you know, in neutral, because as you see, it doesn't really hit your opponent if they're on the ground. And while it can, you know, kind of anti-air people, it doesn't have the biggest hitbox, and a lot of times it'd be better to go for like a back air or a forward air, or even a neutral air to try to just hit them out of the air. But it is a great combo extender. If you can get something like, you know, for example, an up tilt, you get a free up air, and you can drag him down, go for another up tilt, drag him down. And essentially how you do that is you just have to go up tilt, hold up an A, and then hold down. Or I guess just tap down like immediately. So yeah, that's pretty cool. You can just kind of continue that. And as well, you can do stuff like up throw, up air, drag down, regrab, up throw, up air, drag down, regrab. And then the third one, you kind of have to hit them because you can't really get the regrab. But yeah, that in itself is amazing. You can get stuff like, you know, of course, the down tilt into up tilt and up air, try to drag them down. Of course, on stages with platforms, you can do like a full hop, drag people down. And usually on the third and fourth hit are the best hits to drag people down, because the hits after that sometimes are a little bit inconsistent to drag down. So try to do that if possible. That is just such a great combo extender though, and I really like this move. Onto his smashes, I feel like generally they are pretty good smashes. Now, a lot of people say Joker does have some trouble killing, and that can be true, especially with his aerials. His forward air does kill at like 80 all the way up here, but a lot of cases it won't kill like up here until like, you know, 130, 140, which does kind of suck. And neutral air doesn't kill way too much, up air doesn't kill way too much, at least in their normal forms. But stuff like F smash actually kills at decent percents. You use F smash, it'll kill at like 110ish%. It comes out on frame 16, so not the fastest, but not the slowest. It's not way too bad on shield as well. And in a lot of ways, it kind of reminds me of like a Croy F smash, but a little bit weaker, and I guess a little bit slower. But you know, it's not bad. As well, there are some really weird things you can do, like of course the forward air into F smash right there. I can't believe I got that, but there you go. That is another possible thing you can do. The final thing I like about this move is that you can like run away, F smash, run away, F smash, and you can use kind of like Wolf. You do go back a little bit, it seems, before you use F smash, so it can be kind of hard to hit him in this situation. Overall, just a pretty useful smash. One of his best things for killing. I guess one of his most powerful things for killing, but I guess it is kind of situational compared to his other smashes. Down smash, when I first saw this, I actually thought it was a pretty bad smash attack, because I was like, hey, this doesn't kill way too early. But what it does do is it kills actually decently early, like 120-ish, 110-ish, and it comes out really fast. This is actually one of his faster smashes, comes out frame 12, has a lot of combos into it potentially, mainly off of just drag downs or, you know, things that happen to hit your opponent on the ground. You tech chase, and then you go for jab, jab, down smash. And the nice thing about it is that it does hit behind you and in front of you, and does kill at decent percents, at around 120-ish at the ledge again. Now, I should also say that, I don't know if I'll be able to show this, but if your opponent is off the stage and they're grabbing onto the ledge, he's going to come up way too fast. But you can't actually hit your opponent very well with the down smash. If you're like this close, it doesn't actually hit them. So a lot of the times, at least in my experience, you have to be like right here for some reason and hit him with the very tip of your sword, and then it works. But if you hit at the tip of your sword, sometimes it just like has a really bad hitbox. If you hit at the tip and bottom of your sword, it just kind of like hits him a little bit and doesn't really kill. So that's a thing to keep in mind. But it is a really good smash attack. Does kill really early, I guess, relatively for Joker, and gives him at least one move that he can use in order to get a kill without being way too risky about it. Finally, we got his up smash, which is actually his fastest smash attack, and I really like this thing as it's a strong up air, and as well, of course, as I was saying earlier, you can go forward air and do up smash if you happen to, you know, land it right. It can kill pretty early, so that's decent enough by itself. And I'm sure that there are also going to be other things that link to up smash, probably like up air later on, but mainly just being an anti-air and having that forward air into up smash. Just give it a lot of pressure and makes it can kill decently early. Pretty good move by itself, and honestly probably one of the smashes that you're going to be using the most, just because it has that kill confirm that's very easy to get into it. Onto his specials, we have his gun, of course, doing not that much damage far away, a little bit more damage closer up, and then quite a bit of damage really close up. Of course, you won't oftentimes be wanting to use your gun this close up. It can knock your opponent down at really high percents, and it does, of course, you know, kind of do that to your opponent. But yeah, it is mainly used just to kind of poke your opponent, to force him to start approaching you. And this, along with the side B, which we'll talk about a little bit, makes so that he's a character that kind of makes his opponent have to go for him, because if they don't, well, he's going to get chip damage on them, and it's going to be really annoying for them. Now, other than just shooting, you can actually double tap, and then you'll kind of fly forward or backwards, so that's cool. And you'll shoot in the same way that you're facing in the first place. As well, you can do this in the air. Another thing you can do that's really cool is you can actually jump, shoot, and then double tap forward, and you'll do like this weird wave dash. You can also shoot and just do the same thing backwards, and you'll do a little mini wave dash backwards. That has a lot of potential, and you are actually invincible while you're doing the roll. It does make your roll actually get longer, or I guess a little bit worse, so that should be kept in mind. But yeah, that's a unique thing about it that is very, very cool. Now, talking about other stuff it can do, if you press B and then press jump, you'll just jump right above yourself, shoot, Now, the nice thing about this is that it always has like hit stun, essentially. So if you do this, it'll always hit your opponent, as you see, and it does a lot of damage. And it'll also sometimes, like, if you're, for example, right here and your opponent's on the ground, you can edge guard them, you know, decently well with that. So that's kind of cool. Now you can either just, you know, regularly jump, it'll send you right up. You can jump and press forward, and it'll send you forward, or jump and press backwards, and you'll kind of go backwards a little bit. So, you know, that's really nice. As well, you can actually press, you know, B in the air and then press down, and you'll start to shoot beneath you. And that is super nice because against certain recoveries, you can just like shoot underneath and then just completely destroy the recoveries, like Little Mac, for example, and like Corrin. Yeah, you can just kind of keep spamming that, and a lot of characters just kind of die. Especially the Arsene version is just even better. But yeah. It's pretty dang good in order to do that. And finally, you have the up version, which I haven't really found much use for. It doesn't actually knock your opponent back. It does decent damage, but that's kind of it. I guess it can poke, like if you're kind of close. Really risky, though. Probably won't be using this way too much, but the other ones are quite good. And I should also mention right here that you can actually jab block with like 1-2 sometimes into the down smash, but it does feel really inconsistent for me, and I'm not sure the exact range you have to do it. Yeah, it's kind of inconsistent. Most of the time, I'd rather go for jab. But it does do a lot more percent than jab 1-2, because it does, you know, 12% in total instead of just 4%. So, yeah, if we can follow that up and if we can, you know, maximize the damage out of that, that could be really good. But those are kind of the main things you do with the neutral B. Overall, good poking tool, but should not be really used way too much if your opponent's approaching you because you're just going to get hit. Side B is another pretty good move. Now, the thing that's a little awkward about this move is that, you know, sometimes it can be hard to hit your opponent with it. But if you do hit your opponent with it, it's a pretty well damaging move, especially if your opponent has a shield. That's a little unfortunate. But it does do a decent amount of percent, does around 13%, does have a good amount of range. And this regular version is just kind of like, you can kind of finish off combos with it sometimes. You can kind of just use it as a combo ender a little bit. That's kind of the main things you can do to it. As well, a weird thing you can do is like fall off, jump, and then side B, and as you saw right there, you can like fly onto the stage with a projectile. It's so weird, but you can potentially do that, so that's really cool, and it can just frustrate your opponent. Now, this and neutral B together are great because it means that you can just kind of throw these things out, force your opponent to go towards you, because if they don't, they're just going to be taking a ton of damage. Next, we have his up B, which is just kind of a grappling hook. Now, the thing about this that's great is that it is super long range. If you wish you double jump, you're gonna die, but super long range, and yeah, it lets so that you can actually go out quite far, grab onto it. As well, you should mention that you can up B from like the side, which is really weird. But yeah, it's just a pretty good recovery. If you get hit out of your double jump, a lot of times you will just kind of be dead off stage, which kind of sucks. But it grabs from further range, I think, than someone like Ivysaur or somebody like, you know, the Belmont. It looks like that to me. And if it doesn't, well, yeah, I'm pretty sure it does, at least for this one. But if it doesn't, well, you got a much better double jump and much better airspeed, so that'll as well get you back on quite a bit faster. As well, of course, it can actually grab people if you do happen to hit them, if they are above you. If I just, you know, purposely fail at getting this up air, and then you grab him, and then you get the combo after that. Really cool. Not a thing you'll be using, I guess, all the time, but it is kind of cool. I think I should mention right here is that your up B does seem to prioritize grabbing the ledge over hitting your opponent. So if your opponent is in the way, you actually, most of the time, will not hit them. And if you up B and your opponent's in the air and you're also in the air, it'll just do 6% to your opponent instead of grabbing them and continuing a combo. If you do want to get the grab, you do have to be on the ground. That's just a thing to mention, and that's kind of how that goes. Okay, talking about down B, this is kind of the like weird gimmicky mechanic about this character that I really like, and that's essentially whenever you take 75% as Joker or wait 3 minutes or get, you know, yeah, 75%, you will charge up your persona, which essentially makes all of your moves more strong or gives them a different power or just makes them kill earlier, which is really cool. But with his down B, it's essentially a counter. Now, the thing that's awesome about this counter is that it makes you take way less damage, and if you happen to block stuff, well, it charges up your bar for your persona. This is great because if your opponent's like a campy person, you can oftentimes just keep doing this, take not that much percent, like around 14%, and there you go. You've summoned Arsene, who is super freaking good. Now, of course, you can't always get that, but if you can, that's great. I should also mention about this move, it does, I think, about half the damage, and it can be held for like 1.5 seconds, so that's really nice, especially good against campers. It only does 3% if you are close to range and you release it, but at least it pushes your opponent away, so it's kind of nice. And it does come out frame 3, so literally just as fast as someone like Incineroar, and you can hold it for a long time. Yeah, it's pretty nice. As well, I should mention, once you finally get Arsene, he does last for 30 seconds, so that's nice as well. I'll be talking about him a lot in a second. And yeah, if you're just playing against spammers and you don't want to just, you know, spam this stuff, you can sometimes just like take in all their hits and go on from there. That's kind of how that down B works. Actually, probably one of my favorite counters in the entire game. Finally talking about his... Finally, talking about his throws before I go into the Arsene version of all Joker's moves. I did want to mention all Joker's regular moves before the Arsene versions because I feel like it's a lot more confusing to talk about both instead of just talking about base Joker and then kind of the upgraded version of Joker, which is what I'm going to do in a second. Anyways, though, we got Joker with his throws. First off, we got forward throw, which throws your opponent on the ground. If they miss the tech, you can get jab, jab, and a down smash. And that's really cool. At very, very high percents, at like 180 plus, it seems to kill off the side with really, really bad DI. So, you know, it is a possible kill option, but not that great of a kill option. Yeah, it can kind of kill, but that's kind of, you know, that's kind of it. Moving on to his other throw, that's very similar. We got his back throw. Now, this is just like his forward throw, but kills quite a bit earlier. It kills it around 160, 170-ish for most characters with good DI. And, yeah, even as, you know, Link is pretty heavy, so it won't kill for a while. But it's a pretty good back throw, and being able to have a really good kill throw, or at least a decent kill throw as a character that focuses a lot on grabbing and focuses a lot on leading into grabs with a lot of his aerials, you know, that's pretty dang nice. Now, moving on, we got to talk about his up throw and his down throw, and both of these are combo throws, which is really weird. You don't see that way too much, but let's start by talking about down throw. His down throw, most of the time, you'll just be going into Nair, honestly. Which is good enough by itself. You can go down throw, nair, and do stuff like, you know, dash attack if you happen to get that. And I know at higher percents, whatever. You can go down throw, nair, and dash attack if you can do it. I'll just try one more time, but there we go. And as well, you can do stuff at higher percents like down throw into nair, down throw into up air at higher percents. But a lot of times you won't really be wanting to do that, as you'll see in a second. As well, though, you can go like down throw into back air, as I said earlier, and that can actually, you know, take just your opponent on the ground. You can follow up. There's a lot of potential combos out of this that I've been seeing, but those are kind of the basics with that. But up throw as well, a great throw because you can throw your opponent above you, and as I was saying earlier, drag them down. Even if you fail completely dragging them down, you know, you got at least 40%, not too bad. But if you up, drag them down, which I can hopefully do like right here. Come on. There we go. Hit him back above you, drag you down, and just kind of continue whatever you're doing for a long freaking time. So yeah, that's really nice. I also want to mention right here, so don't forget about it, that you can at certain percents, which I probably won't get the exact percent on this character, but if you have Arsene, which just essentially again buffs all your moves, you can go like up throw into up air and it will kill off the top. I definitely did not do that correctly right there, but that is a thing that you can do, and it's like a ding dong. It doesn't seem to be a 50-50, so your opponent either air dodges it and then they get hit with like a back air and they die, or, you know, you happen to get the up air and they die. So that's kind of how it goes. But yeah, it has that potential. It has the combo potential, and probably one of his better throws. I can't tell if, you know, up air is better or down, not up air, up throw is better or down throw. Both of them seem pretty good. I think that I've been seeing a lot is people going like up throw and then dragging them down, and then, you know, another up throw, drag down, and then, you know, I'm failing at this right now, but you can get that, and then, you know, you get down throw into forward air, into dash attack or something else. Good around 50% if you're doing it. Sometimes it's kind of hard to do it when you're talking, but that is stuff you can do. And let's move on to the Arsene version of all Joker's moves. I did want to mention that actually the frame data of almost all of his moves seem to be exactly the same. Some of his smash attacks seem to have a lot longer range, but the frame data does seem, again, about the same, so I'm not going to really talk about that way too much. And as well, most of the uses of his moves are pretty much the same, and I'll only mention stuff here that is kind of special about the Arsene versions. The main thing you just have to know is that, you know, if he's in this mode, he does a lot more damage per hit, and this is the easiest way to do it in training mode. So starting off, we have his jab, and this and his F tilt just kind of keep their exact same usage. Again, don't really change the risk versus reward that much. The main benefit is that they do hit quite a bit further off stage, so it can lead into a lot better edge guards. But, you know, that's kind of it. Nothing really way too special with either of these moves. Just kind of hit a little bit further off and, you know, kind of going from there. Now, moving on, we as well have his up tilt, which is pretty darn good because this does become, as I was saying earlier, a kill combo eventually if you do go, you know, up tilt, or I guess if you go up throw into up air at a certain percent as well, it can kill just, you know, pretty decently high up almost all the time. Does a lot of percent, still combos the same as before, but does have potential to kill now, just making it a little bit better than it was. Finally, we got dash attack, which actually kills at the ledge for some reason. I don't know if, yeah, it even kills Link at that percent, like 100%. His forward tilt and his jab don't kill, but dash attack does. So yeah, make sure to like shield, dash attack, kill your opponent at super high percent or super early percents for no reason. That's cool as well. It hits your opponent really far off to be edge guarded really easily. And yeah, that's another great thing about the Arsene version. Onto the aerials, a lot of them, again, stay pretty similar. They just kill a lot earlier now, like a ton earlier, which is great. But the first move I'm going to talk about is Neutral Air here. Really, the only difference is that Neutral Air now has this really weird but cool combo that it didn't have before, which is Neutral Air into side B, which does just a ton of percent. I'm sure that you can find other ways to maximize the percent even more than that, as side B just does a ton of percent in this mode. But yeah, that's really cool, and that works at around 0%, just Neutral Air 1 and 2 into side B. You can get only Neutral Air 1 into side B, which is really awkward because like the chance that you're going to be running around and throwing out a Neutral Air 1, kind of weird, and that you will hit the second, but as you see, it does a lot of damage, a little bit less than the other one, but it works. The forward air, it kind of keeps the same main benefit as before. It looks a lot cooler like all of his moves do, but the nice thing about it is that if you happen to hit just, you know, the forward air 1, which is awkward, so if you stop pausing, it has lag. If you happen to hit forward air 1, it goes directly into, you know, up smash and kills even earlier than before, which is really, really cool. And of course, if you happen to hit forward air off the cliff, which will be really awkward against this Link, but if you happen to hit it off the cliff, it will kill super early. It does have, you know, kind of a small hitbox, but even right there, yeah, it'll kill forward air really, really early. Kills like 60-70%. That's kind of the only main difference about it, but that alone, really, really good. Back air as well is just great in this mode, and I feel like this is actually probably one of his best moves. It doesn't actually have a bigger hitbox, I think. It looks a lot bigger, but I feel like when, you know, in actual gameplay, it's about the same, maybe a little bit bigger. That's kind of it. But, you know, it still keeps most of its combos at low percents. Pretty much all of its combos at low percents. But in addition, it does 16%. So it's this giant range move that does 16% that also kills really early. That you can also use the edge guard. You can also use, you know, his way better recovery now, which we'll talk about in a second, to edge guard. And yeah, that's kind of silly. As well as I talked about earlier, you can go like down throw into the turnaround back air, which is kind of awkward. But if you do that, it'll get your opponent way off stage. And if they're a lighter character than, you know, Link, for example, it might potentially kill them. Yeah, that's great. The final thing about this that I want to mention is that it makes him really scary neutral, because if you're just throwing around a lot of back air, it's kind of hard to tell where he is in the first place. Like, look at that. It's kind of hard to know. But as well, if your opponent shields all of them, well, that's going to mean that they're going to be kind of in trouble, because you can start mixing it up with a lot of grabs. And if your opponent starts to not really respect this a lot, well, if you hit your opponent, you're going to be doing 16%. Onto his dare, I love this because it actually makes his dare spike, and I wish his regular dare spiked. Unfortunately, it doesn't, but this thing has a pretty big spike hitbox, as you see, and what's nice about it is that you can actually, of course, you know, spike up the cliff, that's kind of obvious, but you can actually combo to stuff like up air, you can combo to stuff like up smash, and, yeah, that's just kind of dumb. The fact that you can do that, like, there we go, right, an up smash. I took a little while, so, you know, I didn't get the combo right there. But yeah, it does potentially combo to up smash. You can get forward air 1 into down air, that's saying earlier, right there. And there's a free spike. Again, forward air 1 is kind of hard to get, but that's a free spike. Finally, moving on to smash attacks. These things become super good. Now, they are still just as fast, so keep that in mind. They're not any better as far as that goes. But I feel like all of his moves are a little bit safer on shield because they have a bit more damage, so that is kind of also cool to keep in mind. Other than that, they also have a lot more range, or at least a decent amount more range. So as you see, you know, that blue hitbox and along with your red hitbox, both hit. So yeah, that makes it this can actually somewhat hit under ledge sometimes, or at least hit people that are actually, you know, pretty far off the stage. Yeah, that's kind of the main thing. Just more range, better, a lot easier to hit into your combos. The other thing that I want to mention right here is that fair 1 into up smash does seem easier like this, just because your up smash is way bigger, and it does kill a lot easier, so I feel like this is probably one of the main benefits about this move. On to his specials, we're going to start off with a side B. This thing I really like because instead of just, you know, kind of going on your opponent and doing nothing like this, or it just kind of hits him, it actually happens to fly onto the ground and last on the ground for a second. If your opponent gets hit by any of the smoke, well, they're getting hurt. As well as you can see right here, you can like throw it from the middle of the stage, hit your opponent, and ledge trap them. And if they happen to do anything else, you can punish that. That's pretty ridiculous. I showed you earlier some stuff that can actually combo into this. You know, mainly neutral air, and it can actually be used quite well as a combo ender because it does do like 20%. So yeah, that's pretty dumb. The final thing I want to mention about this is that other than just being like a way better version that's way longer, that's just like way better in every way, is the fact that this stops a lot of people from camping you, because if you're like in the middle of the stage and you use side B, well, yeah, that's really painful to deal against. Moving on, we got his up B. This thing is great. It's actually, at least from what I saw, like the longest range up B in the game, at least from the trailer. So, yeah, that's cool. It's kind of ridiculous, but there we go. And it lets you go off stage and like nair, which is really easy to hit now because you can go so far off stage, get your back airs, go really far off stage, and then come back up. not that far off stage, but really, really far off stage, as you can see. And it's also invincible on frame 3 to 25. So it's super hard to beat. It's like Inkling, but without a hitbox at the beginning and the end, but way further range and invincible. Yeah, that's really good. That's kind of all I really have to mention about that, but it's definitely one of the most ridiculous recoveries in the whole game. Now, finally, we're going to talk about, let's move right here, talk about his down B, his reflect, and, of course, his counter at the same time. You can both reflect and counter move. So if you're close up, you'll hit him, do a lot of damage. If you're far away, you can, of course, just, you know, throw the other move back. So that's nice. And I guess the final thing I'll mention is that, yeah, the guns are really good now because they do a ton of damage and they kind of force people to approach. And they knock down a little bit earlier. And yeah, dude, that's just so much damage. I guess the very final thing about his specials is that if you happen to get your opponent off the stage with Arsene, you know, you do this, you shoot below you, and it sends people super far, and then you can recover really easily. That's just kind of a broken edge guarding that this character can do. You can go so deep like that. And I guess that's the final thing I'll talk about with the specials. To his throws, these things are actually exactly the same in the Arsene version as in the regular version. Arsene doesn't help you at all. Yeah, you could say that that's kind of disappointing. But the thing is that all your combos still work. Essentially, all your combos still work. Or some combos probably work that didn't used to work before. And, you know, you're just going to be doing a lot more damage per hit. So, cool. That's kind of all I can say about that. His back throw doesn't kill any earlier. His forward throw doesn't kill any earlier. His up throw, as I said earlier, does have that cool thing that can lead into up throw. Up air at a certain percent does seem to be a 50-50. I'm going to definitely have to learn more about that. We don't really have all the information about that, honestly. And it's a really cool thing that I want to know more about. I should also mention the up tilt kills. I completely forgot about that. Yeah, I don't know how I forgot about that, but up tilt does kill. So that's really cool. Sorry about that. I completely forgot. And I guess the final thing is, of course, you can still go stuff like, you know, down throw into forward air. And sometimes it might send people a little bit too far away to keep up the combos, but the percent by itself is more than enough to make up for it. But anyways, that's all I'm going to say about this character. I feel like in general he's a character that, at least for me, I'm going to be going in a lot as. I'm going to be trying to start up a lot of combos as. But as well, he doesn't really have a free neutral. None of his moves really just like automatically win. He doesn't have like super long range moves. And a lot of times you do have to space well. You do have to time yourself well. You do have to play really smart. And so I think he's going to be a super fun character that is honestly probably kind of hard. Not too hard. You can probably play him at a decent level and, you know, just kind of spam around with his moves, get, you know, decent combos, but he has a lot of potential. I guess that's the main thing to say about him. And not using that potential could kind of hurt, and it could be kind of hard to get kills if you can't get a lot of his confirms. If you can get them, it'll be way too hard. But that's kind of what I mainly think about this character. And again, I think he's probably going to be high tier, maybe top tier. I feel like he might be a little bit too inconsistent to be like the best character in the game. And a lot of his damage at low percent isn't that great. It's pretty good. It's pretty dang good. But compared to some of the other characters, and compared to the safety of some of the other characters, it can be not the best. But I mean, when he has Arsene, he does so much damage. He has so much combos. He has so much kill power that alone, you know, that can be really fun. That's probably one of the most fun things in the game, at least for me. But you don't have that all the time, and it can be kind of hard to get that because if your opponent isn't hitting you, you can be kind of punished for winning at times. Of course, you can charge up Arsene with like taking 13% or so with down B, which is way too hard to do. But yeah, that can be kind of a pain about him. But anyways, those are all my thoughts about this character. I've been really loving Joker, probably my favorite character in the game right now. You know, the meme goes Joker main, Joker gang, but yeah, I think I'm going to be doing it at least for now because he is so cool. He's a lot like Roy plus Lucas together, which my friend was saying, and I totally agree. And those are some of my favorite characters like ever in Smash games. So there we go. Those are the guys though. Thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Leave a like if you did. Subscribe if you want to see more videos like this in the future, especially a lot of Joker videos, as you know, they will be coming. They will definitely be coming. And tell me if you want to see more guides as well, because I haven't done one of these for a while. This one is very long, but I hope you guys enjoyed nonetheless. As those guys though, thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a smashing day.